Welcome into another edition of the Sam Adams Show, brought to you by Kia of Anniston, Oxford, as always. And I want to thank them for their sponsorship that has allowed us to have this coaching show each and every week. And Coach, last week's one of those games that you definitely enjoy as a coach. You got up early. I believe Mason Mims had 169 yards and 3 touchdowns, which led you to a 35-0 lead at halftime. Take us back to last week and what transpired in that game versus Pell City.
Yeah, it was you're in a game like that against a team that's had a rough season so far. It's always important to get off to a fast start so they don't build confidence as the game goes and, develop hope and all that. So, so we came out really fast, scored on our first 5 drives of the game, and played really well on defense. They didn't really move the ball very consistently throughout that first half, and that enabled us to be able to get some younger guys in the second half and get those guys some good, valuable Friday night experience.
Coach, when you have an offense that's clicking like yours was in the first half last week, how good is that and satisfying is that to see what you've been teaching all this season come to fruition in a game like that?
Yeah, it was really satisfying. Those guys did really well the other night as far as the attention to detail and alignments, and when you play that way, it puts so much pressure on the opposing offense to have to hold serve. And then, it didn't take long, many possessions back and forth there. We're really strongly out in front of the game, and that helps your defense out as well. Because it's easier to play defense when you got a 21-point lead as opposed to, when it's tied or you're behind or something like that. It kind of makes the other offense, a little bit more one-dimensional, and that makes our defense a lot better.
Coach Cochran, pin his ears back, send them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, yeah.
Now, Coach, that was a very important game last week to win like you did, get some younger guys in. Well, I mean, your whole team's basically young.
Yeah.
But to see some of those younger guys, even younger guys, get reps, how important was that?
Well, it makes your practices better the next week. The more kids that can be involved in a Friday night game, the better. It helps everybody to feel like, they're part of the team and they're contributing, they're doing their part. And it's a good reward for those guys as well, because we've had some games this year where those guys have practiced extremely hard during the week, and just the way the game went, we weren't able to get as many kids in the game in some other weeks. But this is it's a good incentive for those guys, and gives them a chance to get some plays on film on a Friday. A lot of those guys that were in the game were kind of our Monday night JV type guys. But it's a whole different animal doing it on a Friday night as opposed to Monday in a JV game.
Yeah, no, you guys JV at Oxford is different than JV at other places. Yeah. You guys play some serious competition, some JV games as well.
Yeah, we really do. And those guys they've been scratching and clawing all year, and it's a tough year in general for our JV guys because we're playing 13 freshmen and sophomores. They're starting on Friday night, so a lot of those guys some other years may be playing on Mondays. But our JV schedules, it's a tough one. We play pretty much everybody that's in our region, plus Gadsden City. We had Talladega earlier in the year. So, it's a tough season for those guys.
It's been tough, man. The competition, that makes everybody better.
That's right.
Now, Coach, you got a monster coming up in 2 weeks, but we're not going to dive into that one, so to speak, right now. We're going to talk about how important this off week is, and could it even come at a better time?
Yeah, this having an off week at this point in the season is crucial, really. It's really hard physically to stay up for that many games in a row. Everybody kind of develops some bumps and bruises along the way and things you kind of have to play through. So it's good to get a little bit of physical recovery this week, but just the mental and emotional recovery is huge too. Because it's hard emotionally to get up for that many games in a row. It just is. I think Bobby Bowden said you can really get them up 4 times a year. Really get them up emotionally. And that's true. You can't. Every game is not going to be at a fever pitch for those guys. You just can't emotionally do that over and over again. So we've had several big games up to this point. And this week we will practice 3 times. There'll be shorter practices. We'll get a little bit of work done on Clay Chalkville. Obviously we're kind of working ahead on that a little bit. Then we'll get 4 days off on the back end of the week, and and our guys, the way we set our program up, they don't get 4 days off really ever in a row, besides Christmas or Thanksgiving if we're not playing at that time. So it'll be good for them to kind of step away from it a little bit after getting some good work in early in the week, and hopefully we're full go on Monday getting ready for Clay Chalkmore.
Now, you got guys banged up that you hope to get back this week, or is everybody is playing through some pain?
We're kind of playing through some stuff. We'll get one or two guys back that were a little bit banged up this week. We're kind of in a spot where the guys that are going to be back are back, and the guys that are not. So we're always hopeful that we'll be as healthy as we possibly can be.
Next week we'll break down the Clay Chalkmore game, and we'll talk about that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it because it's an all-important off week. But just kind of looking back, assess this first, let's call it 2/3 of the season so far, and your overall thoughts.
Yeah, so right now we're sitting at 4-3 and 3-1 in the region. So are we exactly where we want to be record-wise? No, but we're a much better football team than we were a month ago. We've been tested, and we kind of know what it feels like to come out on top. We know what it feels like to come out on the short end. I think we've done a good job of learning from the losses that we've had and making the corrections that we need to. So we're still a work in progress, and our main hope is that 3 weeks from now is when we're playing our best football, when we're in week 10 going in the first round of the playoffs. Because last week's win did secure us a spot in the playoffs. Now, where we end up in this region 1 through 4 is still yet to be decided. We know who the 4 are, I believe, out of our region. That'll be us, Clay Chalkmore, Pinson, and Center Point. But I think as of right now, there's a mathematical possibility if any team out of those 4 ended up being the 1, and almost any of them it could end up being the 4. So just got to see how these next few weeks play out.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't think you could script a better off week to get your guys back in, get them healthy, get them refocused, and what we mentioned, the younger guys having confidence now, because those guys, like you said, feeling to be a part of this, now it boosts that ego and energy up in practice, which is going to help your starters, push them a little bit. So last week's game was very needed heading into us off week, and Coach, looking forward to seeing you here again next Monday, and this is that time of year, Coach, where, like you said, it's time to dial it in. It's playoff time right around the corner, and you got to jockey to where you're going to be and play at.
Yep, that's right. We got a big stretch ahead of us.
All right, Coach. Appreciate you coming in, and we'll see you again next week.